I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but
Sure.
I just want to. Okay, who's the constituency of the House of Representatives?
You got me. I don't
No,
know.
we the people.
Okay.
Who votes? Who
I'm
votes?
not. I
Who
know that I
vote?
know that we should follow the Constitution. I know that we should study the Constitution.
Well,
If the city will tell
the
you that I know everything about the Constitution, I'll be lying to you.
no, and that's okay. But see, this is, and I think this is one of the most critical components that we lack, especially in our community. Is we need
Absolutely.
to know the Constitution.
Absolutely. I
We
agree.
add that. I mean, that is like basic 101. We have to know the Constitution. What we've been told is that the Constitution. This is all because of Marbury versus Madison. You know that, oh well, the lawyers are the ones that have to get in there and interpret the Constitution for us because we're too stupid to know it for ourselves. That's an
Sure.
absolute load of bullshit. The
Right.
Constitution was written for we the people to understand it. And if you really want to if you really want to screw with your mind a little bit, go do a search for the original 13th Amendment. The original 13th Amendment, which was, I mean, the 13th Amendment now says that it was basically abolishing slavery. But the original 13th Amendment, which was ratified in the late 18 teens, like 1819, 1820, 1821, something like that, was that regular citizens, if they accepted titles of nobility, would lose citizenship and could not be in government positions. Okay, well,
Mhm.
essentially what that means, and I'll break that down from the coded language. What that meant is that lawyers couldn't serve in government.
Yeah, and they do.
The lawyers are the big problem in the government
And they
because
do.
yeah, right. So, but anyway, I'm going to digress a little bit because I
Sure.
want to get back to my initial point. Well, I'm asking who's the constituency of the House of Representatives, and that's the people. The people. That's why the House of Representatives is supposed to be the most powerful of all the branches of government is the House of Representatives because that is basically voted on by we the people. That is our say in government. That's why it is the biggest. Okay. And that's why you vote on it every 2 years. Because if your representative isn't really representing them, you can go in there and you can vote them out. That's in theory, that's what it was. Okay. Who's the constituency of the Senate?
Congress?
No. The constituency of the Senate is the state governments.
See, I need to learn this stuff, brother.
Yeah, the state
Next,
governments.
yeah.
So
Next time you have a class, would you invite me like in
well,
advance
of
so I
course.
can make it?
Yeah, well, I
I
mean,
definitely need to know this stuff.
yeah, the constituency of the Senate is the state governments because when we had the Great Compromise, I mean when the Constitution was being written, you had one segment of the states who wanted to have the government be based on, or the legislative branch be based exclusively on population. Well, that was going to work out
Right.
great for places like Virginia and Pennsylvania, the Carolinas, New York, but it
Yeah.
wasn't going to work out so well for places like Rhode Island or Delaware or Maryland. Okay,
Sure.
they wouldn't are going to have much say in the process. So then you had other states that said, well, hey, we want to have equal representation regardless of how much population you had, which would have worked great for places like the reverse, like Delaware and Rhode
Yeah.
Island. That would work great for them, but not so much for
Right.
places like Virginia. Okay, so what they did was they compromised. They said, well, what we're going to have is we're going to have a lower house. We're going to have a bicameral Congress where we have a lower house that is based on population, and that'll be that where the people will vote, and then we'll have a secondary house, and that will be that house will represent the state interests at the federal level. Okay, that represents the state interests at the federal level because the states created the federal constitution. People think that the federal constitution is the supreme law of the land. That is not technically true. The federal constitution does not govern the states. The federal constitution only governs the federal government.
Hmm.
If the federal constitution governed the states, then the states would have no need for their own state constitution.
Right.
The state constitutions govern the states. And see, I got a little bit of pushback for this from a lot of people because I looked at the duplicitous nature of the Roe v. Wade case and the New York a concealed law or concealed carry law case.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, what was everybody saying about Roe v. Wade? Well, hey, this is a great decision because it's actually sending it back to the states where it belongs, right? The states get to make up their own mind on what they want to do. Well, what did the federal government do in reference to the New York concealed carry law? They took that ability away from the state of New York and said, no, you can't do that. The federal government was created by the states to basically handle the things that the states didn't want to handle. The states are essentially their own countries, and they are the parent. The federal government is the child. If you really want to spend a good hour and a half, go watch Non-Compliant with Chris Ann Hall. That is one of the most spectacular, and this is actually she put this out fairly recently. It is one of the most spectacular videos I've seen in a long time, talking about how talking about the government and the federal government and its role. See, the federal government, they do not have authority to tell the states what to do. They never have. Okay. Well, the 17th Amendment, what the 17th Amendment did, when you look at the progressive era with the 16th, 17th Amendment, the Federal Reserve Act, this all happened, under Woodrow Wilson. I mean, that was probably one of the worst periods of history in our worst periods of times in our history in terms of legislation that came out. So you get the Federal Reserve Act, and the Federal Reserve essentially, the federal government did not have to. The Treasury actually could print money. We don't need to borrow money from a central bank. Well, borrowing money from the central bank, actually what that did was that allowed the central bank to come in and give money to the states. But the states are going to take money from the Federal Reserve via the federal government. Now the federal government gets to dictate what they're going to do. And if the states say no, then the federal government has the right to to withhold money. And that's kind of what Trump did with California. You remember when all the fires and stuff?
Yeah.
And Team 17 talked about, well, how do you get around that? What they were alleging was California was starting fires because they were running out of money. They were running out of money that they were getting from federal grants.
It's much deeper than that.
100%. But on the surface, people can that's something that's chewable that people can understand. Yeah. So, but anyway, getting back
when it comes to the Constitution, I'm a very basic constitutionalist. The freedom of speech, the right to bear arms. The right to bear arms protects your freedom of speech.
But the right to bear arms is again, the Second Amendment. This is where I got it. This is where I get a pushback, and I'm probably going to get some pushback from your audience, and that's okay. I don't mind. But the Second Amendment does not govern the states. The Second Amendment only governs the federal government. Okay. And I say this, if the Second Amendment governed the states would not have language in their constitution that resembled the Second Amendment.
Can you explain that in layman's terms for the audience so that they understand exactly what it is you're talking about?
Okay, so the Bill of Rights, the Bill of Rights that was put into the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, that does not the states do not have to follow that. That is only restricting that is essentially telling the federal government those rights that they cannot infringe upon at the federal level. Okay. The states created the federal government to handle things that the states didn't necessarily want to deal with.
So doesn't the federal government law supersede state law?
Negative. The federal government does not supersede state law. In fact, most federal laws cannot be implemented in the states if the state says no.
Because I know that if you're in a state, like say most states, state law will supersede county law.
Yes, but state law can supersede county law, but it also has to adhere to the state's constitution. If the law is made at the state level and it violates the state constitution, the county the county sheriff has the right to say, I ain't gonna enforce that.
So how do you answer now to a lot of states are jumping on the bandwagon. I believe Ohio was the first one to do what's called constitutional carry.
Hold on a
You hear
second,
me?
brother. I don't know if it's my internet connection or not, but
Mine
I'm
is
breaking
solid.
up here a little bit.
You're herky jerky and you're delayed a little bit. But
Yeah.
let me repeat the question. How do you answer to the fact that Ohio was the first state in the union to basically go constitutional carry, and I believe there's quite a few other states following in those footsteps where you don't need to go and get a concealed carry and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, again, that only applies to that applies to the state. And I agree with the constitutional carry. If you really if you really want a true indication of what was being said in the Constitution, you need to go to like the 1828 Webster Dictionary. You can Google it. There's the 1828 Webster Dictionary, and that what that does is that actually defines the terms that were used in the Constitution. One of the biggest things that people don't take into consideration is audience relevance. Okay, from a biblical perspective and from whatever perspective. If I write a letter to you and I say, "Yo, dude, man, you freaking killed it that day on that show," okay? Well,
Yeah.
200 years from now, somebody comes and they read that transcript. They're going to be like, "He killed the show. What did he do? The show died?"
Yeah.
Because I'm using a slang word, but I'm talking in a euphemism that you understand what I'm saying. Oh,
Sure.
yo, man, you killed it, bro. That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, when you look back at the language that was used back 200 years ago when they wrote the Constitution, the language was very specific. But what we're doing is we are taking their language and applying the definitions to those words from 2020 or 2022, and we're saying that that's what they meant. No. We have to go back and we have to look at what they were implying when they wrote the Constitution, then apply it to where we are today. And that is something that we do not do.
Cool.
Well, now I could go on. I've been studying this stuff for so long, and you kind of get me into a.
I always say, Ron, no one man or one woman is an island. You may know a lot about the Constitution. I may know a lot about Jassara Nassara. Somebody else knows a lot about something else. And together we know everything, but not one person is going to know everything. It's impossible.
And
it's too much information.
I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that.
Know?
I just, I'm very passionate about my country. I served in the military. When I served in the military, I believed that my country was doing something that was correct. Come to find out, a lot of the things that I did when I was serving, they weren't really very noble. But that said, I'm not embarrassed of the service that I did, but I'm embarrassed that I did the things that I contributed to the bad things that the country did because I was unaware. But I'm not embarrassed that I did it from the perspective that, I'm still proud that I served my country because I did what I believed was the right thing to do with the information that I had at the time. But in hindsight, a lot of the things that I did, I don't stand in solidarity with what my country did in my name when I was serving. But that doesn't take away from the pride that I have from when I actually served.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm here because of circumstances. My wife, because she is from the Philippines, and she had to go for some of that stuff before the C-19 and all that stuff. But I've been educated on that stuff for a long time by guys like Del Bigtree and so on, and I've watched quite a few documentaries and information. I'm a video junkie. I'm an information junkie.
As am I. Am I.
I don't do a lot of reading because my eyesight, I'm headed for 5'9", 6'0" scratching, and so my eyesight's not what it used to be. So I'd rather listen. I absorb better by listening and watching than I do by reading anyway, always have. But I will tell you that, we're here in Costa Rica for that reason. And so we're waiting for this entire storm to blow over. We think we're close, but we've been here before. where we think we're close and then we're not close. You know what I mean? So I don't like.
Well,
I
I tend to think we're a lot closer than we've ever been. You know, I feel like the pressures and the stresses of the financial system are beginning to, you know, we're starting to see ropes, you know, lines break, and I think that's going to be the beginning of this. So I think the wind is picking up a little bit. We're starting to get a, you know, it's going from a drizzle to maybe a little bit more of a more of a steady mist.
Mhm.
You know, so we are starting to see things that are going to have severe impacts on our future, and I believe that by you know, February, by September, October timeframe, certainly by November, I think we're going to be in some serious stuff. Just by virtue of the you know, the food shortages, the gas shortages, the energy, you know, the strains on the electrical system, people losing their jobs, people losing their ability to buy things. You know, if you look at our, you know, they're taking money out of, they're taking liquidity out with the quantitative tightening. By taking liquidity out, they're going to put even more pressure on the system. You know, we're seeing you know, revolutions. You know, people in countries all over the world are beginning to revolt against their government because the governments are starting to collapse. You know, and again, we're going to see it last in the United States. And you know, I tell a lot of people in Southern California, you know, you got to get ready. You got to get ready, and they think I'm crazy because they don't see it happening here in Southern California. But it's beginning to happen in parts of the United States, and in some of the more rural areas in the United States. People are starting to feel severe pressure,
Right.
and you know, and I say, well, yeah, of course, you know, in Southern California, if you had a grocery store that was completely out of food, that's going to make the headline news.
Exactly.
If you have a grocery store that collapses in Podunk, Oklahoma, you know, not that that's not an important thing, but you know, most of the country ain't going to care because it's just not something that's going to make the news.
Right.
So, you know, we have to be cognizant of the fact that there are systems that are breaking. You know,
Yeah.
the death situation, the railroad situation, the fertilizer situation, you know, all these food processing plants that are going up in flames. I mean, there's a lot of things that are really
Yeah.
going awry. You
Yeah.
know, the inflation going up. You know what they said. They said the inflation numbers came out the other day, and it was like what 9.1, and that's what they're admitting. You know, I'm sorry, but food inflation is a whole lot more than 9%. Food inflation in the United States, people going to the grocery store, they're paying probably,
Double.
you know, double, if not, you know, 2.5 to sometimes triple what they were paying a year ago.
That's
So
happening here.
yeah, and what about fuel? You know, I mean, you've got places in Texas that, you know, where people are accustomed to paying $1.20 a gallon, and they're paying $3 or $4 a gallon. You know, what happens when there's water shortages? You know, in California, you know, they're talking about severe drought. Well, you know, you could go a long time without food, but you can't go a long time without water.
Absolutely correct.
So,
Absolutely correct.
so anyway, let's get into some of the XRP, the XLM,
Yeah.
the
But I want to cover one
QFS.
thing about the 17th movement also, and
Okay, go
maybe
ahead.
you might be on the same page, and then we'll get right into the XRP stuff.
Sure.
You know that I think Melania is an intricate part of this 17th letter.
I
And
think I believe that a lot of the things that she wears are comms. Yes. Yes.
mic drop,
Her,
right? Maybe two
yes.
mic drops.
Yeah.
Okay. Exactly where I was going. You just read my mind. She'll
Mhm.
go on the airplane. She's wearing one outfit. She comes out of the airplane. She's wearing a completely, totally different outfit. One of the outfits, there was three that he bought. The same identical outfit was purchased by who? 107.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, he made an announcement out there. They were able to find three originals. He knows
Yeah.
something, folks. He knows something. Okay. there are military commands. I believe the military has a catalog of, based on what she's wearing, signifies a specific command. And there are things being activated based on what she's wearing going into the airplane and coming out of the airplane. I get chills with this because I believe we're onto something of great significance.
That very well may be true. I've never heard that, but I'm, again, like I said, I do believe, like what you just said, that the attire that she has on at specific times is communication.
Right. Absolutely. So will the story ever be told, in your opinion, the 17th movement? Okay.
I believe it will. I believe it will, but I don't know if it'll be told in our lifetime.
Well, the fact that we're going to be able to have life extension technology with med beds, and many of us that believe this to be true, including myself, we know, I'm very convinced of this, that we will see people that didn't receive that thing that, right, will be able to go into this technology and literally greatly expand their life to 800, 900, even 1,000 years. And some people are talking that very soon, in the next 50 years to 100 years, they're going to introduce immortality for people who want to be here forever. I wouldn't want to do that. I would probably want to be transported to another planet. I want to go see something else because I'll probably be bored. Because if I'm here for 900 years, I'll probably see everything there is to see 900 times too many. A lot
of that stuff is a little bit far out for me to kind of, to hitch my wagon to that. Sure. I don't know if it's true or not, but I mean, I understand that, if they have the technology if they have a lot of the technology to do some of the stuff that they're talking about now, then I'm sure that they have the technology to replicate cells and, a lot of really advanced technologies that we don't have. There was a really good movie that came out. I want to say it was like 2013. I don't know if you remember this. It was a Matt Damon movie called Elysium.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that a lot of the stuff now, minus the overpopulation of Earth, there was, if you took all of the people on the planet and you gave like everybody like a certain amount of space, you could fit them into Texas. Yeah. You know what I mean? The Earth is not overpopulated at all.
Not even close.
The Earth is not overpopulated.
There are pockets that are overpopulated. Yes.
Agreed.
Right. But you've flown, you've looked outside the window just like I have. I'm a window guy. When I gotta get on the airplane, I gotta have the window seat, right? Yeah. And I look out there, and there are miles and miles and miles and hundreds of miles, thousands of miles, and there's nobody out there. Nobody. Zero. So where is the overpopulation? Really, technically speaking, they said that you could take the entire world's population and put them in Texas. If you knock down all the buildings and trees and just have nothing but pure land. Australia, and I think they said California, the state you're in, and everybody would have something like a half acre of land to themselves. That means California, Australia, California are populated. The rest of the world is completely empty.
Right.
Yeah. That means we have bad managers. We have people with ill intent. We have people that want to rub us out because
it's not bad managers. It's not bad managers. These people are managing very effectively how they've been told to manage, and they've been selling us on the idea, and people have been foolishly listening and buying into the concept that we are overpopulated and the Earth's resources are stretched thin and that we're killing our planet.
So you're basically saying that these people were sending their kids to school to be brainwashed. That's what I'm hearing.
100%. 100%.
Stop sending your kids to school. Exactly. Homeschool them.
Stop feeding the insanity. Stop feeding the system.
Yeah.
Stop feeding the system. If you stop feeding the system will ultimately die.
Right.
And there's multiple mechanisms that feed the system. It's not strictly just propaganda. It's not just strictly propaganda. But another thing is, if you go back and you look at the 16th Amendment, which was never fully really ratified, and you do any sort of investigative work as to where the money goes that is allegedly going to the IRS, where is that money going to? I mean, the if go look up, taxes are voluntary. I mean, taxes were supposed to be voluntary. It was a voluntary thing. It was, but we have just we are in the prison of our own mind, and we are choosing
Bingo.
to stay there because we have this fear of we can't get out, which is a load of
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
which is a load of crap. I mean, we stay in the prison, and what we do is we're like the crabs in the bucket. And when somebody tries to crawl, when one crab tries to crawl out of the bucket, we instinctively try to pull them back in, because no, you can't escape. You have to stay in here with us and be miserable.
Exactly.
No, 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 no. And see, that's why people who espouse ideas like I do, I'm looked at as I'm crazy. I'm not crazy. I'm I will concede that there's probably some things that some concepts and ideas that I have in my brain that are a little bit foreign to people that they can't conceptualize in their head. But it doesn't mean I'm crazy. It just
Yeah,
means that
exactly.
I'm thinking for myself, and I may not be 100% accurate on how things are going to play out. But I guarantee you, I have a much better grasp on information than most people. Have you ever read the book? Um, have you ever read the book? Uh, so the secrets, rule by secrecy.
That one I haven't.
Okay, I'm
But
gonna
one I have is Confessions of an Economic Hitman,
Oh yeah, that John. You're talking about
John Perkins.
Coleman Perkins. Thank you. No, let me find. I'm going to find something because I want to read this to you. I want to read this really really small paragraph.
Hmm.
Let's see here. Rule by secrecy.
But I've heard of the book that you're talking about. I've never read
Yes.
it.
Well, there's a very interesting paragraph. It was one that really I kind of felt like it really highlighted and just nailed it. Let me see here. All right, I'm gonna find this. Okay. All right, I'm gonna read this here. So, according to conspiracy researchers Jonathan Venkin and John Whalen, the American public's attitudes are shaped by a sanitized, quote unquote, Disney view of both history and current events. The Disney version of history could just as easily be called the New York Times version or the TV news version or the college textbook version they wrote. The main resistance to conspiracies does not come from people on the street, but from the media, academia, and government, the people who manage the national and global economy of information. Anthony C. Sutton, the London-born economics professor who was a research fellow at Stanford's Hoover Institution, agreed that an establishment history dominates textbooks, publishing, the media, and library shelves. During the past 100 years, any theory of history or historical evidence that falls outside the pattern established by the American Historical Association and their major foundations with their grant-making power has been attacked or rejected, not on the basis of evidence presented, but on the basis of the acceptability of the argument to the so-called Eastern liberal establishment and its historical line. Woe betide any book or author that falls outside of the official guidelines. Foundational money is not there. Publishers get cold feet. Distribution is hit or miss or non-existent.
They have gone through to great lengths to move mountains, to put out all kinds of disinformation out there. And the information that's out there is so overwhelming, hence the reason and the terminology dumbed down.
Well, and not only that, but on top of that, what you have is you have elements out there that are actively trying to remove information out of the pub, like old books that would have had that would have like reported on stuff like this. I did an interview with Mike Harris a couple months ago. Just an amazing guy, and he did. He was one of the principal people behind naming the Khazarian Mafia. And one of the things that he said that really struck a chord with me is he said, and the Khazarian Mafia, essentially, I use that as a euphemistic term for the powers that be, because they do control quite a bit. I mean, if you look at the systems and the people who were in control at every single upper echelon level of everything, be it in the music industry, the TV industry, the news, the media industry, the advertising industry, the sports industry. I mean, I'll just virtually every industry. They're all, let's just call it Khazarian Mafia. I don't want to say the term, because we all know what it means, and I'm not insinuating that every single person is bad, but they also control the used book industry. Think about that. They control the used book industry.
And all the books are supplied by who? The Rockefeller Foundation.
Right.
And they sell them at a loss. They sell them.
No. I think you're misunderstanding where I'm going with that. Because they control the books, they can select books that they don't want to be in circulation anymore and get rid of them. That's what, and so, because I know there's a lot of books that I have tried to find. There's a lot of books out there that I have tried to locate.
You can't find
you can't find them anymore.
Right.
And it's not because if you go back and you look at like the Zionist movements and all this stuff for bringing us into New World Order, whatever.
Yeah.
The way that one of the first things that the communists do is control information.
Of course.
And what better way to control information and control the narrative is to erase history. And the best way to erase history is make sure that you don't have any access to it. And that's where the old books come in.
While we're on the book subject, the books that your kids are reading in school, grammar school, high school, college, and so on, were all produced by who? The Rockefellers. Mm-hmm. They sell them for they actually sell them at a loss. So, for example, if me and you, Ron, wanted to get into the book business and put out the real information, first of all, we couldn't, because they lobby very strongly against it. And they would crush us because they got all the money in the world. Number two, we're not going to go in business and sell something at a loss, because that would mean you're out of business before you even start. They're selling it at a loss. In other words, they're putting these books out there at 66% off. Mm-hmm.
I'm well aware of that tactic as well. Yeah. I'm well aware of that tactic as well. I mean, that's just one tool that they use to control, control, and it goes right back to what I was just read, that paragraph in Rule by Secrecy is that they control the textbooks, whether they
control the information. Absolutely,
they control the information. And what better way to control the information? And see, that's where you start to get into the the feminist movement. Okay. Well, the feminist movement was sold to the people as an altruistic thing. Hey, this is going to be good because
started by David Rockefeller.
Yeah, and it had two purposes. It had two purposes. Number one,
double taxation,
and number two, it got the women out of the home into the workplace, fighting with men and whatever. But what it really and truly opened the door for was the state to raise your children. Because the state had way more control over your children, because when both the mother and the father are working, they are so consumed with trying to make ends meet, and now having to work 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet, because they can't make it on one income alone, because the money has been inflated and basically diluted so that it's worthless. And now the kids are being raised, and now we've got this huge woke generation that's coming up that is soft and actually willing to accept, socialism and whatnot. I mean, they have done their work extremely ruthlessly and effectively. I'm not willing to give them kudos for what they've done, but I'm willing to respect how they've done it because they've done it in a fashion that most people didn't see coming. And by the time that you are telling them, hey, this is what's happening right now, people are so brainwashed that it's like, no, you're crazy. That can never happen here.
And they went out of their way to brainwash people through television programming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
programming.
Like I'll give you a classic example: The Honeymooners. That show was specifically designed to break up men and women.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, go back and watch the episodes. I know because my mom and my dad loved that show, so much so that they watched every episode 100 times. They knew the lines by heart. They would.
I don't remember that show, but I don't.
The Honeymooners.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Art Carney and Jackie Gleason.
Yeah, I don't remember that show, but I've never really been a big TV guy. I turned my cable off in 2011. I would say that probably my only vice is baseball. I'm a big Dodger fan. That's my only vice. And I don't
have a vice.
I gotta have something, man. I gotta have an escape because people are like, "Oh, how could you go watch baseball with the world collapsing?" I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me? I've forgotten more than you know." Okay, yeah. I have to have an escape.
Yeah, so, let's get into XRP. Let's get into
it, brother.
The financial system. I believe that the market cap is old world rules. It's going to be washed out. It's going to be away. In other words, this is not going to have any room in the new world. Once they roll out Jassar and Nassar. I tend to believe that the XRP can and will need to be a minimum of 50,000 and potentially as much as 100,000, not because I want it to be that number, because they need it to be that number.
I agree with that. And let's just say that if there's any sort of revaluation of currencies, the dollar amount that we're talking about right now, I believe is a representation of the dollar amount that it will be worth in today's dollars. But I believe that the value will be that, whether it's, if $50,000 to $100,000 is what it's going to be valued at in 2022 dollars, it may only be $1,000 in 2025 dollars, right? But the purchasing power of that will be $100,000 in 2022 dollars. Does that make sense? It's kind of like if you go back and you look at what was a $20 gold piece in 1920, could have bought you a nice, really nice, well-tailored suit and whatnot.
Totally.
Well, a gold piece today could buy you a nice tailored suit, right? The value of the gold the value of the gold has not gone to 19,000 or to $1,800. It's the value of the gold has been stable. It's the price point applied
manipulated.
It's the price point and the value that of the dollar that has decreased, but the gold price has actually been stable.
Well, when you go in to solve the Nostra Vostra accounts, meaning there's about 45 to $47 trillion trapped all over the world in these banks. Correct. Because they need that money there because they need to transact in remittances, corporation to corporation, government to government, the derivatives market, the real estate market. There's a lot of markets, and that money's got to be sitting there dormant. So XRP eliminates that problem immediately. Why? Because it moves at the speed of light. It's accurate. It's never made a mistake. Right. So the Nostra Vostra accounts, all that money gets freed up. 45, $47 trillion. It's a lot of money. So that they say is going to solve supposedly the inflation problem, number one, and number two, because you have Jassar and Nassara and the UBI and prices are supposedly, they're saying, some people are saying 1950s prices. I don't believe that. I don't buy that. But I do expect potentially 1970s prices. Because everything's going to come down and it's going to be a level playing field, and everything's going to come down to a reality, a new reality.
So I like to say that there's two different slogans out there. Mm-hmm. One is the Build Back Better slogan, which is the World Economic Forum, global, New World Order crap, and then you have the good guys out there, and their slogan is level playing field.
Right.
So
Exactly.
when you listen to the level playing field stuff, that's to me, that's where everything is going to go.
There's no question. You watched the bonfire guy. He's actually not the guy. There's another guy that actually made those videos. I don't know why he gets the credit for those videos, but those videos are very, very well done.
Extremely well done.
Yeah, and not only are they well done, because 3 years ago, nobody knew what the lobster was. Now you go back and watch the bonfire guy, and you connect the dots and say, okay, I get it. It's the lobster. Bingo. You know what I mean? Lobster's a very dangerous place. 98% of the shit that's on there, it's all shit. It's scams. Protocol 19, Protocol 20 will fix that. But if you want to follow guys like, Quantum Brownie and Emily and Tim Wilcott and some of the people that are in training right now, like the Jilla Jeds and Amy Sievers and so on, and Bondcrypt, who are the new, elementary lobster coaches. Okay, if you follow their footsteps and they have a list of the ones you should buy and the ones you should stay away from, you're not going to have a problem. Okay, can you lose $4 or $5? Yes, but can that $4 or $5 make you $4 or $5 million? Yes. So
I learned my lesson. When I had somebody try to introduce me into Bitcoin back in 2011, and I wasn't in a very good place in my life, but I was like, what the hell? I'll throw $100 at this. What do I have to lose, right? The Bitcoin was like a penny, I think, and so had I put $100 into Bitcoin at that time, that would have roughly bought $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, or 10,000 Bitcoin, right? Had I been successful in doing that. But I couldn't figure it out. And then I just kind of like, whatever, whatever. I gave up because I couldn't figure it out. Well, back in, I think it was 2018, 2019, when it was Jim Willie. I was actually the Jim Willie video that Jim Willie was talking to the guy from Canada.
I think I know who you're talking about. I can't think of the name of the show.
Oh my gosh, Jean-Claude.
Jean-Claude, yeah, it was on Rumble.
From Beyond Mystic, yeah. Big fan of Jean-Claude. So he was talking to Jean-Claude, and Jim Willie threw out a thing about Theta and XRP, and people who owned Theta and XRP were going to be sudden billionaires. And when he said that, it resonated with me because I recalled what I could have had I not given up on the Bitcoin in 2011, right? Well, and who knows, had I not given up on the Bitcoin in 2011, who knows if I would have even still kept it, because I would have probably been a lot more interested in it. I wouldn't have just bought it and just left it sitting. But the point was still well taken, that this is what I could have potentially had. I had, but that resonated with me. I'm like, what? I need to take this digital asset thing very seriously. So I jumped in I had no idea what I was watching. I watched, but I devoured every possible video that I could find. I read everything that I could find to try to familiarize myself with it. I did whatever. I immersed myself in the industry to try to learn everything I could. And I still don't know a lot, but I know a heck of a lot more than many, just because I put myself in the situation. And I still to this day will listen to a lot of the financial guys out there. I listen to a lot of the things they're talking about, and I understand it a lot more because I decided to take that course of action. And I don't want to say that Team 17 was not really posting then, but that was the point where Team 17 had kind of like died down, and I rechanneled my efforts to learn more about the digital asset market. And lo and behold, it comes back, and I kind of feel as though, especially after watching the Flare Network trailer, when you watch the Flare Network trailer from January of 2020, or was it January 2020 or January or 2021? I can't remember. But I think it was 2021. So the January 1st trailer of the Flare Network, where it drew the big letter, the big 17th letter in there, was like, that was an epiphany moment for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, no way. It's like I struck the mother lode. It's like I did I wasn't trying to find this, but I found it, right? It's like this all marries. This is all connected. And boy, you want to talk about chills? That gave me chills, and it's still. I mean, I get chills right now thinking about it because it's like everything that I've looked at, and you know what? I pray, Mel. I pray that this isn't confirmation bias. There may be a little bit of confirmation bias in there, and I'm willing to concede that. But knowing what I know and seeing all the stuff that I've seen, it's like, man, and you listen to guys like Trump and you listen to these things, it's like, I don't know. There's a lot of merit to the belief structure that I have.
What is the word Trump? What is the word Trump doing in that 3-minute commercial?
Yeah.
For Spark. What is exactly. The 17th letter of the 17th letter in the alphabet? Very clearly in that commercial.
And at the very end, what is JFK doing talking about going to the moon?
You understand? These are messages. You got to be able to read them. You got to be able to understand them. Look, if your pineal gland is clouded with Colgate and Crest toothpaste, I'm sorry for you. Yeah. I keep telling you, don't use that shit. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah.
There are alternatives. There are alternatives to everything. You could buy stuff that is not poison. It'll cost $1.22 more, but it's safe.
There is, I will concede that the belief system that people like you and I have requires a great ability to read between the lines.
Bingo.
You have to have a great ability to read between the lines. You have to have the ability to do pattern analysis, and you have to be able to see things that aren't there. Call it paranoia. There's a great John Coleman video of his from like 1994 when he talks about, I'm paranoid. He says, but you got to understand, paranoid is not a bad thing. Paranoid just means that I have the ability to see things that others don't.
Exactly.
And that's not a bad thing. That just means that I have the ability to see things that others don't, and that's because I'm looking at information that others are looking at, and they're not seeing it as I see it. And I don't apologize for that in any way, shape, matter, or form. So the fact that I'm able to read between the lines, do the pattern analysis, and connect dots that other people don't necessarily connect, all that means is that it just gives me a little bit of a heads up. That's basically my mindset is that of mindset of a police detective trying to solve a murder, because that's how murders are solved.
Bingo.
Don't criticize me because I have the ability to see things that you don't. I'm no different than an investigator. I'm just coming out with analysis of how I'm perceiving things.
Great.
And it doesn't mean that I'm right on 100% of the time, but it just means that I'm seeing things that other people don't see.
Great analogy. Great analogy. I love it. And, I think, you and I, like I said, yesterday's conversation would have been an incredible podcast as well, but this one's not too bad. Okay. We're trying to recreate, if you will.
Yeah, I know.
It's hard to do. It's not easy.
It's extremely difficult to do. And I really am trying. I swear to God.
I know you are. But, so XRP, XLM, XDC, the ISOs, the Lobster, we have to wait for the Protocol 20, Protocol 19 to come into full effect so that it's no longer the wild, wild west. I do believe that is also being run by the military and the 17th letter in the alphabet. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and there's a couple other projects out there that aren't necessarily ISO tokens, but they are going to have a place at the table in the future. And I think that, some of those are going to be like the Cardanos of the world, the Hedera Hashgraphs, Theta, T-Fuel. Those are also projects that are going to
how about VeChain?
VeChain. I'm actually pretty high on VeChain. I sold a lot of my VeChain, but I want to get back into it.
I hope you sold it at 26 cents.
I didn't. I think when I sold it, I think it was like 16 cents, but whatever.
You didn't do too bad.
Yeah, I didn't do too bad because I bought it at like 2. So I didn't do too bad. But I think VeChain is going to have a significant impact. And you said something yesterday where you talked about the blockchain technology is off-world technology, and I tend to agree that is probably the case. I tend to agree that that's probably the case. But again, I can't verify that. I'm open-minded to the idea that it is, but I can't
Yeah,
verify that.
yeah. In
So,
the interoperable ledger, the XRPL ledger is the most advanced blockchain in the world.
yeah, well, I mean, operating on consensus, I don't know how the heck they do that, but and see, the beautiful thing what they did, in my humble opinion, is that they snuck into the WEF and they sold themselves as they're going to be compliant with the WEF. Meanwhile, they're actually going to be working in what I believe is going to be against the WEF.
No question.
So,
Like you said, white hats are going to be black hats, and black hats are going to be white hats. It's a movie, and it's the art of war, and it's designed to keep everybody confused. Me and this guy, we go the extra mile, and we really dissect, and we measure 19 times or measure 17 times and cut
yeah,
once. And we look at things from different angles and try to come with the best analogy possible. But not a lot of people are. No, I'm not saying that they don't have the intelligence level. That you've just been poisoned with the food. You've just been poisoned with the chemicals that you decide to put in your body, and your mind is not going to work. I promise you, and you can agree or disagree. If you start to put in the right stuff, okay, does your mind start to clear up?
oh yeah, absolutely. My father was a pharmacist who migrated into being like a natural pharmacist, and so he went from being a drug apologist in the 1970s to being basically anti-pharmaceutical companies by the time that he retired and then ultimately passed away.
Yeah.
But one of the big things that we did was chelation, and chelation is the removal of heavy metals out of the body.
Right.
So, I'm very familiar with chelation therapy. In fact, I actually have a product out there that does, helps that. It's called the Detoxicream. Now, I'm not pushing that product,
Yeah, that's fine.
but that is a product out there that will help you. That'll help minimize the toxic heavy metal burden on your body. And the toxic heavy metals are horrible for your body because they cause all kinds of oxidative stress.
Yeah.
So, but to your point, if you remove those bad things, yes, your mind will clear up. You will, you'll be able to see things a whole lot more clearly. And let me say something to address your point about, some people don't, I think that there's a lot of people out there who have the ability to critically think, but I think there's a couple of factors involved as to why they don't. Number one is they don't have the time.
Right.
They're so busy.
Okay, he's back. He had a little bit of internet issues, but we got it fixed.
You would think it would be the opposite, man. You're in Costa Rica with a better internet than me in the United States. What the hell?
I got fiber optic, the latest technology. I live in a up to scale gated community, so it's the best that they have.
Well, the one I got Starlink. I just haven't installed it yet, but I actually got the equipment for it. I probably need to put that up. But anyway, what I was saying before I got dropped is addressing that how people aren't paying attention or aren't seeing what we're doing or seeing what we're seeing. I don't think that people are stupid. I genuinely don't. I think people do have the ability to critically think, but with the deterioration of our monetary system and all the other things that have been happening, I don't think people have the desire to investigate stuff because they're exhausted. They don't have the time. They're exhausted from all the other stuff. They're too busy working 2-3 jobs. So just to try to make ends meet, and it only continuously it's a perpetuating hamster wheel that just has to go faster and faster and faster until you die of exhaustion. And all the information that you and I talk about is information that could help them heal and figure this thing out. Well, they don't have the time to do it because they're so busy working. Well, guess what's going to happen? When this whole thing collapses, people are going to have a boatload of time.
That's happening now because of the C-19. People have been stuck home and they started to pay attention, which has caused by default the Great Awakening.
That's right. But what we are about to see is we're about to see that on steroids.
Yes.
On anabolic steroids. And it's going to be, I think we're going to enter what do you remember Chris Dwayne?
No.
You remember Chris Twain? Okay, he was a big silver guy. Um, he talked about what was going to be the anger phase. When we have this system, when this thing all breaks down, there's going to be an anger phase where people are going to realize all the things that have been done to them.
Yes.
And then in that anger phase, that is when we need to be the most vigilant.
And that's where you need to stay back, because you can get hurt just by being in the crossfire.
That's right. We need to be as vigilant as we can and stay out of harm's way as much as we can.
Yes.
Protect ourselves with, to the best of our ability, but do not seek out confrontation.
Yes.
Do not seek out confrontation.
Yeah. Let's leave it with this.
Okay.
XRP Ripple, multi-billion-dollar company with multiple offices. You've heard I've said this on many of my, I want to get different point of views, and this is also for your audience, because I'm sure this will be the first time they listen to it. The Treasury, according to David Straight, who was on my biggest, actually we were 20,000 at the time, not even 20,000, 19,000 and change. We jumped up by 9,000 people, subs, in literally 11 days. Wow. When that interview took place. The video goes from 0 to 177,000 hits. For a channel that's got 19,000 subs, that is impressive. Okay. Mm-hmm. So needless to say, he says, he basically confirmed the story for me. Richard Citizen journalist was down there filming the Treasury because they did an audit on the Treasury. The books didn't match. Next thing you know, buses and police cars pull up. A lot of people go up away in handcuffs. The Treasury is closed. The IRS is closed. The Federal Reserve is closed. Nobody's home in Washington. Undeniable. Nobody's ever seen Washington this way. Nobody's home. You can go knock on the door. You can go spend your own hard-earned money, go knock on these doors. You'll see that these buildings are closed. The FBI, the Department of Justice, everything is shut down in Washington, D.C. Well, is it possible? I was there in January. Of last year. I was there in January. And on the famous day that you're not allowed to say, by the way? On the famous day, I was there. And it was, it was a ghost town then. Right. But what I'm trying to say, why isn't a company like Ripple, in your opinion, not allowed to leave the United States when they have offices all over the world, UK, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, Japan, Australia, and so on? Why? Is it possible, Ron, that somebody inside our government, which does operate like a Sicilian mafia, made them an offer that they cannot refuse, and they're not allowed to leave? I don't know. I don't know if I'm on board with that, but I'll tell you this. I think I don't believe that they want to leave the United States, because I believe that the powers that be who are at Ripple know what's on the horizon, and they know that there's not going to be any better place for them than here. Yeah. So I don't think they want to leave, but I don't. But you just touched on it. They have offices all over the world. So they have operations all over the world. They're not exclusively in the United States, but they're not leaving there. They're not going to put their headquarters anywhere but the United States. I am of the opinion that the lawsuit that was done by the SEC there was a couple of different objectives that were put into place by that. Number one is, I think that it was to show the horrible corruption of the SEC. Right. To expose the horrible corruption at the SEC, because if you look at what happened, especially with that decision that was rendered the other day about the Henman emails. Okay, so this just dovetails with all the stuff that we're talking about. I know that you had mentioned yesterday during our call that, hey, you think that the lawsuit has already been resolved and settled. And that very well may be the case, and everything that's going on now is kabuki theater. And again, I'm not closed-minded to that, but I don't, the only evidence that I have in my purview is what's visible. Yeah. Okay. Emily, who works with Whiplash very closely, from QSI, Quantum Stellar Initiative, who owns a Telegram channel called QSI, I believe. It's always down in the description below. You could join her Telegram, which is beneficial to understanding the lobster. She said, basically, she went back in the Wayback Machine. My wife brilliantly, just yesterday, took that 40-minute interview that we did that she goes back in the Wayback Machine. She condensed it and put the meat and potatoes in a 3.5 minute video, which I'm going to release hopefully in the next day or two, that proves beyond the shadow of a doubt that the lawsuit was settled with documentation, irrefutable, irrevocable evidence. You could take this into a court of law and they would not be able to deny it.
Well, again, I haven't seen that, so I can't speak to that. But
I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to
Okay.
send it to you as soon as it's ready. I'm going to send you a link and say, watch this 3.5 minute video.
Okay.
It's
I'd like to see
mind
it.
blowing.
I'd like to see that. I think that we'll at the end of the day, we're still arriving at the same destination. And
Yeah.
that's that, and that is that XRP is going to be the
The
default
one.
reserve currency of the world. Yeah, as the one. It is going to be the one, and as well as a lot of the ISO tokens and the ones
Yes.
that we talked about earlier.
XLM,
So,
XTC, and so on. But I'm going to tell you one other thing. I believe, and I could be wrong, but we've had CEOs of Canadian exchanges and Canadian and exchanges from all over the world come out and say that the characteristics of XRP are that of they will be able to turn it into global reserve currencies. That another reason why they're not allowed to leave the United States, because it works so well. Why even have a US dollar? Let's just make XRP the US dollar. Let's call it a day.
Well, it's if you subscribe to some of the things that we're talking about, we're actually going to get the Jetsons lifestyle that we were promised.
No question.
By when we were kids. I don't know how old you are. I'm 52. But when I was growing up, we talked about, we're going to be, by the time that we're adults, we're going to be living in space, and we're going to be living on the moon, and we're going to be living on Mars, and we're going to be traveling all over the place, and I still believe that a lot of that is going to transpire. How it manifests, again, I don't know, but I do believe that the, if you really want to go into the ufology realm, XRP is going to be an intergalactic currency, and I mean they've actually that's not me that's said those words, and several other people have said those words.
Greg Kidd, who owns 1 billion XRP, is the single largest privately owned stash of XRP. 1 billion XRP, said that on Digital Asset Investors interview.
Yeah, intergalactic currency.
Yes.
So if it's intergalactic, what do they know? I mean, Greg Kidd is not stupid.
Far from it.
In fact, probably if you want to emulate any one individual investor, emulate Greg Kidd. Don't emulate Warren Buffett. Emulate Greg Kidd. That dude has the head on his shoulders. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I don't want to, man. I'm a little nervous about my internet connection, so I don't want.
Oh, don't worry about it. Let's call it. I had a great time. I can't wait to do this again with you. You're a wealth of knowledge. You know stuff that I don't know about. I know about the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, and all of that. And I know how to defend my First Amendment with my Second Amendment. But you're a wealth of knowledge in that, and that you're an expert. And together we make the full picture, brother. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Nino Rodriguez, for introducing me to Ron Partain. Had a blast.
And I don't have a huge following out there. I have, my channel is Untold History Channel. If you go to untoldhistory.us, it takes you to my Rumble channel. I don't have a lot of stuff out there. I've been told that I need to do a little bit more specifically on the digital asset front, and I may. I have a channel, Ron Partain XRP, as a YouTube channel. I don't really do anything with that, but if I were, that's probably where I would upload some stuff. So, cool. I have that, and then I do my Constitution class on Tuesdays, and then another thing I do, which is every Monday live, I do a show called Glitch in the Matrix, and that's just me and a couple buddies. And if you go to glitchinthematrix.tv. You may or may not have heard of Alpha Warrior. He's another guy who's actually pretty solid. But if I'm not mistaken, I think you and I and David are going to do a show, and we're going to bring in Zach Rector as well.
Oh, that's going to be very interesting. Send me your Telegram, and I'll send you a sneak preview of what I'm talking about.
Okay, I will do that. It's actually pretty easy. It's the same. It's Ron Partain. It's at Ron Partain. It's pretty easy.
That's easy. Okay, that's
easy,
that's pretty easy. Yeah, I'll look you up right now, and I'll send it to you. I'll have my wife do it.
Okay.
I'll send it to you right away, brother. It was an absolute pleasure. Again, Nino Rodriguez. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, and I look forward to seeing you again soon, Mel. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.